So hello everyone again and welcome to this particular video, and in here we're going to hit into the final part of this particular section, which is mainly dealing with the background behind linear equations. And in this particular example we're going to look at how to determine the y intercepts slope from a specific equation. And looking at this question here, given this specific equation, which in this case is known to be 3x minus 4y, which is equal to 24, we are asked here to find not only the x-intercept but also the y-intercept and the slope of that line with respect to this given equation right here. So first off, what do we know for a particular equation to have an x-intercept? So if we have a graph here where we have our y-axis and our x-axis, we see that in here, if we have an hypothetical line, which is this particular line, the part where the line touches the x-axis is actually known to be called the x-intercept, while on the other side where the line touches the y-axis, it's actually called the y-intercept, which is represented as b. So for you to find the x-intercept, which you're going to start off with, it means here that our x-intercept we need to let our y to be equal to 0. As you look at it from this particular graph right here, we see that when y is equal to 0, which is here, our x is a specific value. So to solve this, what we need to do is put y equals to 0 into this particular equation, and once we do that, it means that where I see y, I put 0 in there. So once we have that, it means here that I'm going to multiply -4 by 0, and what I get here is going to be 0, and what I have left is 3x on the left side, and on the right side of the equation we have 24. So once we have this, we need to solve for x, which means we're going to divide both sides here by 3. So if I divide both sides by 3, what we have as a result is x to be equal to 8. So in here, it means that when x is equal to 8, our y is equal to 0. And that is how you determine the x-intercept. On the other side, to find the second part of this question, which is the y-intercept, instead of making our x to be any value, we have to make our x in here to be equal to 0. So we have to let x to be equal to 0, because looking at it on this graph, if x is equal to 0 right here, it means that y is equal to b. So in this case, where I see x, I put 0 in that particular equation, and what I have is 3 multiplied by 0 minus 4y, and this is equal to 24. And once we have that, we can actually solve for y. We know that 3 times 0 is 0. What we're left is minus 4y is equal to 24. And to solve for y, we divide both sides by -4. So if I divide both sides by -4, what we have is for negative divided by negative, 4 divided by 4, and what we are left here is y to be equal to -6. So in this case here, when x is equal to 0, y is equal to -6. So that's about it for determining the y-intercept. And finally here, to determine the slope, what we have to do is to be able to rearrange in such a way that we make y in our equation to be alone. And why do I say so? So in here, if we have our slope, we know that the slope format, we know from the slope of a line or a linear equation format to be y equals mx plus b. It means here that from the question here, which we have to be 3x minus 4y equals to 24, I have to make this equation here to look like this particular format where my y will be equal to mx plus b. So in here it means that we want to make y to be alone. That is the goal. So in here, for we to make y to be alone, it means that my 3x will have to be moved over to the other side of the equation. What I have in here is that once we move this 3x to the other side of this equation, it means that I'm going to subtract both sides by 3x. That's a plus. I have to take this away or rewrite this so I don't be much space. So in here is 3, and in here is going to be plus, and we have subtract both sides from 3x, and what we have is minus 3x plus 3x is going to be equal to 0, and what I'm left with is minus 4y, and this is equal to minus 3x plus 24. So take note that plus 24 minus 3x is the same thing as minus 3x plus 24. So in here, our next step is to divide both sides by -4 in order for we to get y to be alone. So if we divide both sides by -4, it means here that I'm not only dividing the -3x, but also I'm dividing the positive 24 by -4. So in this particular case, we divide, this cancels out, this cancels out, and what I'm left with here is y, and in here we have negative cancels negative, and what I'm left with is 3/4x, and then finally we have positive 24 divided by -24, which means that 24 divided by 4 is equal to 6, and negative divided by positive is equal to negative. So in here we have our equation, which is in the format of y is equal to mx plus b, and once we have that, we are able to actually isolate our m, looking at this particular form, to be shown as this particular fraction. And this fraction here tells us that yes, this here is indeed the slope, and our slope therefore is equal to m equals 3/4. So that is about it for determining not only the slope, which means that we have to rearrange our equation to look like y equals mx plus b and finding out what m is after solving, but also finding the y-intercept when we make our x to be equal to 0, and finally find our x-intercept when y is equal to 0. So that's about it for this particular video. I want you guys to self-reflect on how to determine this. The solution is going to be on your workspace, and we're going to see you all on the next video. All the same, stay smart and believe in yourselves.